All right, welcome one, welcome all. It's your host with the most, O'Deezy, O'Dizzle, OD in the house. Anybody who's on camera or maybe come on camera just for a moment, we're going to raise the roof because we're raising consciousness. Whoop, whoop. Raising consciousness, raise the roof. Whoop, whoop. Yeah, that's what we're here to do, raising consciousness to a new level. I think the world needs a little elevation of consciousness right now. So many people are stuck in the muck, as they say, in that beautiful dark space. And I always like to say the word soil, it's like the word soul. They're almost the same word. So we're in those dark spaces. That's where the real healing occurs. Now, with that said, today we have one of my favorite topics. I know I say that all the time in this class. I get very excited. I love teaching all this wisdom. But today we're going deep into the Kabbalion. Anybody on camera or in the chat box, have you read this book? Anybody? I'm just curious. This is one of my favorite books. Like this is like it's one of those books where like if the whole world read this book, the world would just shift like in a matter of minutes. That's the type of wisdom we're dropping today. Now, my challenge today for you guys, right, is I have to take this beautiful book and break it down into a 45-minute presentation. So I'm going to do my best to crush that for you guys. Basically, I have like one or two slides for each chapter of this book, and I just boiled it all down to all the essences, the beautiful gold nuggets. I'm going to be sharing that with you guys today. So real quick, just a reminder, we have our retreat coming up and December, the first weekend of December. If you have any interest in that, oh, we got more people popping in. Love it. Good stuff. But let's get things rocking and rolling. I'm going to share my screen. And can you see my screen? Give me a thumbs up. All right, cool. I'm just making a couple adjustments on my end. And okay, cool. I was like, did I hit record? I hit record. Okay, here we go. All right, so like I said, definitely take some notes today. Yes. You guys can see my screen? Just double checking. All right, so welcome to the Alchemy Healing Academy, y'all. If you're not on mute, please put yourself on mute. Unless you really have something important to say, I'm just putting a few folks on mute. So, natural law and the Hermetic principles of the Kabbalion. Honestly, this is definitely in my top 10 favorite books. So if you haven't checked this book out or heard of it, I highly recommend checking it out. Like by the end of this presentation, you're like, oh, you're going to be in Amazon buying this. So it's ancient wisdom of Egypt and Greece. Shout out to Curtis for doing this beautiful work. I'm not this technically inclined, so I have support. If you need any help with creating a beautiful presentation, Curtis is amazing. He does all the animations for me. So let's get right into this, you guys. I know I flashed the book on you. There's actually a black version. I have the brown version. But this book, and if you look at the cover here, the cover for this book literally is the logo, right? You can look at my screen. Look, it's literally the logo for the Alchemy Healing Academy, okay? So like that's how deep this stuff is. It's freaking amazing, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about, well, first we have this beautiful quote I'm going to share with you guys. So in the wave lies the secret of creation. In the wave lies the secret of creation. Now, often in this group, I break out this sticker right here because that wave is essentially like, I actually just figured this out a few months ago, guys. Where basically, if you look at quantum mechanics, there's a particle and there's a wave. And all of a sudden, this one day, I was like, oh my God, the yin yang symbol literally is breaking down quantum mechanics because you see two particles and you see a wave. So the main thing here is if you're operating from what's called the middle way path, you are operating like a wave. You are in flow state. And when you're operating from your ego, you're stuck in the particle, which there's nothing good or bad about that. But the whole goal, specifically what we're teaching you today, is to make manifestation easier, making it easier for you to be in that flow state. It's one thing to say, oh, I'm in flow state. It's another thing to actually embody it. And that's a lot of what we're going to be teaching today as we go through this presentation. So as I mentioned, definitely take some notes, you guys. Now, first off, before we get into each of these, there's 7 specific principles we're going over. I'm going to explain the history to you guys. So this is based upon ancient texts, okay? The Kabbalion and the Corpus Hermeticum, okay? And as I mentioned, there's a couple other books that I have. I'll flash on you guys in a few moments. So there's other names called the Hermetic principles or universal laws. Like these are the principles that literally rule our entire reality. This dates back to Hermes Trismegistus, otherwise known as Hermes Thrice Great. And if you've been attending our calls in the academy, we've been going really deep into those concepts of the thrice great. It has to do with salt, sulfur, and mercury, and working with the 3 supernals. And that's some of the deeper teachings that we go into in some other teachings here in the academy. But let's keep going here. Now, Hermes was the messenger to the gods, the winged shoes. So literally, like when you connect with Mercury, right? The symbol of Mercury is connecting and bringing the gods down into this planet, down into this earth. And you can look at it from like the planet, or you can look at it from the messenger god, but it's really about working with this mercutial energy, right? It's like liquid and solid. It's able to move and flow. Now, these are important texts, came about during the Renaissance. And for those, what does the word Renaissance mean? It means the rebirth or the revival. The Renaissance is the rebirth or the revival. If you go back to the Renaissance time, anybody ever wondered where the word medicine comes from? Where does the word medicine come from? Go ask a doctor. Hey, doc, do you know where the word medicine comes from? I bet the most doctors wouldn't know. But the word medicine comes from the Medici family during the Renaissance. So what we're teaching you guys, and just for those that are maybe new to this group, we're teaching you basically everything that our education system would have taught you if you wanted to learn how to heal yourself. So that's why we're having a revival. This is a renaissance. We're learning about the roots of how to heal thyself. And that's what the Alchemy Healing Academy is all about. And this topic is like pure gold. All right. Now, the goal of Hermetic principles is the mastery of mental forces. Okay. If you're taking notes, that's a key point. The goal of Hermetic principles is the mastery of mental forces. When we talk about alchemy, and I kind of go off on little tangents here, we're talking about turning what is metal into gold and that which is mental into gold. What is metal into gold and what is mental? Isn't that strange how the word mental and metal are almost the same word? Now, if you study alchemy enough, you understand, like just like that picture right there that you're seeing, it's not about the words that I say, it's the symbols. So there's specific symbols that I use, and we talk about this a lot in our weekly calls, where I have certain symbols where you'd actually meditate and you'd stare into the symbol and it actually has an effect on your subconscious. In the last few weeks in the academy, we've been breaking down what every single symbol means in these different pictures because it acts on the subconscious mind. That's why this stuff is so powerful, okay? And so the last key point here is to understand, when we're talking about Hermes thrice great, is mastery of what's called the three planes: physical, mental, and spiritual. And if you notice the logo of my company, right, you see a triangle, a square, and a circle. And that actually is symbolized right there in those three different, I gotta let somebody else in. Hold on, 1 second, 1 second. Sorry, you guys. There's someone I promised to let in, and I cannot. Well, all right. Struggling. All right, we're gonna come out of this, and I'm gonna let Oscar in, and then, sorry about that. Nicholas, I'm making you a co-host so you can let in other people. Sorry, guys, I usually do that beforehand, but there we go. All right, I'm going back in. Oscar, I stopped the whole presentation just for you, buddy, because I love you. All right, Nicholas, anybody else pops in, just let them in. Sorry about that, you guys. All right, back to the magic. All right, so you guys can see my screen. One more quick check. Beautiful. Sorry about that. All right, so getting through this slide right here, as I mentioned, it's really about working with these concepts of the three planes: physical, mental, and spiritual, and bringing them together. And as I mentioned, that's the logo for the Alchemy Healing Academy. It's essentially bringing the above and the below together within you. And after we finish this presentation, we're going to do a beautiful meditation where we can actually embody what I'm teaching you guys today. Now, first off, before we get into these principles, I got one more fantastic quote that really breaks this down from the Buddha. What you think, you become. And this is a big one. What you feel, you attract, and what you imagine, you create. I really want to touch on that part where what you feel, you attract, because that has a lot to do with your nervous system. Okay, a lot of people, their nervous system is dysregulated, and it's because their feelings, their emotions are very dysregulated. They're not conscious. And so, Nicholas, let Marianne. And so the key thing here is understanding how important your emotions are. We have live in a society where people are suppressing, repressing, and denying so many emotions. As many of you know, I have my book that I published because it's literally that big of a problem. I had to publish a book on it. How do we heal our emotional pain, right? And so that's a key point, is like, really, what is the future you're seeking? If you're stuck in your emotions based upon your past, you're going to keep recreating the same experience. If you actually take the time to tune into feeling your future, your nervous system becomes attuned and you begin to attract it to you. That's an extremely powerful point. Now then, let's get into there's 7 specific principles, and definitely take notes, okay? And I have about 2 slides, 2 or 3 slides per each principle. So the first one, the principle of mentalism. This is arguably the most important one. All is mind, the universe is mental. Now, if you master your mind, you master your world, okay? It's really like we talk about this in the coaching industry, mindset. Where's your mind at? Because your mind precedes action, okay? So everything in the universe is created by thought. Thought precedes action. Like when people say like, oh, I have this crazy idea. Well, like long ago, someone's like, I'm going to create the Empire State Building. People probably thought that person was nuts. You're not going to create a building that big. It's like, because all those doubters, those Debbie doubters out there, no offense to the Debbies, but all the Debbie doubters out there, right? You can literally like you can create anything. And this is part of you working through limiting beliefs, right? Like personally, I've published my own book. I've built gyms. I've had a film studio. I built this academy. It's like I believe we're limitless beings. But that's the key thing. Your thought precedes action. So that key thing here is what we think, we shall attract or become. And the external is a reflection of our internal. Okay. So whatever you guys are seeing in your reality, that's a reflection of who you've been in your past. Basically, you're living in the shadow of your past thoughts, your past actions, but you can change that. We're going to talk more about cause and effect later on. Now, these things, they harmonize as we create our own reality and our collective consciousness. That's a very powerful point, collective consciousness. And that's why I teach shadow work, because we have a collective shadow that is running our lives in society. And people are addicted to those unconscious beliefs. And so the more, I always say this when we do our meditations, the work you do on yourself doesn't just heal you, it heals the collective of humanity. And this comes down to this: the microcosm is a reflection of the macrocosm. They actually mirror each other. So the work you do on yourself, it literally begins to shift the external reality in your life. This comes down to what's called quantum entanglement. Earlier this year in the academy, we were teaching what's called quantum psychology. And we had spent like a whole 2 months talking about chaos theory and quantum psychology, because one of the things that I found is all these subjects are connected. It's all intertwined, right? And this is what I mean by quantum entanglement, spooky action at a distance. And we say that, which is an Albert Einstein quote, but what does that mean? Spooky action at a distance. If you've ever studied chaos theory, and if those of you who are in the academy, there's a great presentation on chaos theory, where your thoughts, like a butterfly flapping its wings, could cause an earthquake or a typhoon on the other side of the planet. So your thoughts are vibrations. And we're going to talk more about that in a few minutes. That's the key thing here, is basically I'm reminding you guys of how ridiculously powerful you are. And don't you ever forget that. Now, spirit and physical matter are only divided by the mental plane. If you're taking notes, that's a gold nugget. Spirit and physical matter are only divided by the mental plane. So you're bringing the, like I said, like later we're going to do a meditation, central channel breathing. You're bringing the above and the below, and you're bringing them together within your own consciousness. It's essentially living a yin and yang lifestyle, okay? And so water, like our bodies, this is another like gold nugget right here. Water, like our bodies, represents 3 states, okay? There's physical, which is ice, mental, which is liquid, and spirit, which is gas. Okay, let me say that again. Physical, which is ice, mental, which is liquid, and spirit, which is gas. Like when you breathe, like I love when I meet people and they're like, I'm not very spiritual. I'm not like, I don't believe in spirituality. I'm like, well, I don't believe in basketball. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Like, I don't believe in basketball. It's like, but don't believe in spirituality. Spirit literally just means spirare. It means breath. So like, if you don't believe in spirituality, I love that analogy. Like, I don't believe in basketball. It doesn't exist. I'm like, all right, that's fine. So I guess I always try to make this fun for you guys. But that's the key thing here, is understanding everything is mental. So like I said, we're doing 2 to 3 slides per principle. And now we have the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As above, so below. Some of you guys have probably already heard some of these concepts, but it's all connected, my friends. It's all connected. That's what brought us all here, right? So as above, so below. As within, so without. As the universe, so the soul, okay? It's like, even like for myself, I've been sober from alcohol almost 3 years, guys. Can I get a little raise the roof? Almost 3 years. Woo woo. Coming up in December, because I realized like I'm connected to everything. And part of it was like I got certified as a quantum healer. I'm like, dude, if I'm gonna do healing work, I can't have dirty energy when I'm out here healing people. That's no joke. So I made that shift within myself, because that's really what it's all about, is operating at that soul level and having a clean field. Now, our mind affects our body, and our body affects our mind. For those who don't know, I originally got my degree in nutrition and kinesiology. And I've seen how literally changing your diet literally changes your mindset, right? And when you change your mindset, it changes your diet. It's all connected, right? And oftentimes I found as a fitness and nutrition coach, I was very successful. I ran 2 gyms for a number of years till COVID. And I realized how much I could teach you how to change your diet. I could teach you how to make your butt look good. But if your head is full of crap, what matters if your butt looks good? Having a nice butt is nice. But the key thing is understanding, making this shift on like how we perceive food. Okay. An example of this, mind affects the body. I always tell people the word diet in Latin is dieta. It means way of life. So when you change your diet, it's not just the food you eat, it's changing your way of life, your lifestyle. Who do you identify as? And that's a key point. Who do you identify as? Now, what we do internally is manifested or created externally, right? So all the thoughts that you think, like literally you're attracting people and places and things into your experience at this very moment. You are literally always manifesting. It's just a matter of if it's high vibration or low vibration. And vibration is one of the principles we're getting into. Now, the foods we eat affect our bodies, and what our bodies do with that food affects our minds, kind of like I was saying a moment ago. So as we change our perception of like just this, just like that right there, the word diet. I've coached many coaches. They didn't even know what that meant. They're like, oh, diet's just the food that you eat, but it's really your way of life. So you start to change the fabric of how you perceive reality, it begins to shift everything. And this is a very powerful point right here. Our thoughts, coupled with emotions, are like an unseen magnet, attracting in correspondence to things seen and tangible in our 3D reality. Like you guys are all thinking right now, like, wow, Ody's such a great teacher, right? But you're thinking a thought in your mind and you're always attracting because every thought has a frequency. Okay. So this is why being conscious is so powerful. As many of you know, I wrote my book on shadow work. A lot of people are literally unconscious. They're not conscious of the thoughts that are creating their reality. So often what I do as a coach, and this is a great lesson for all you guys and myself, this has helped me out a lot, is where in your life can you slow down? Let the muddy water settle. And as it settles, then you can shift this magnet and begin to attract new people, places, and things into your reality. It's priceless how powerful it is. And this is one of my favorite quotes. It's actually, I keep a whiteboard in my room. This quote was written on my wall for a long time. Know thyself, and thou shalt know all the mysteries of the gods and universe, the oracle at Delphi. It's a beautiful quote. I'll read it again. Know thyself, and thou shalt know all the mysteries of the gods and the universe, because it's all within you guys. They always say the greatest teachers, like I don't want followers. I don't like the word follower. It's like fall lower. Why do I want you to fall lower? You know what I mean? I don't want follower, fall lower. No, we're here to rise higher and be able to work with a tribe of people doing the work, healing themselves at a soul level. It's stepping out there and making a bigger impact in the world. Can we agree the whole world needs that? Right? That's the whole, we need more people stepping into their power. And that's what I hope every one of you will take away from this presentation. That didn't work. There we go. Quick sip of tea. How are we doing so far? Having fun? Excellent. That mint tea is delicious. I love the animations in this one. It looks so cool. So the principle of vibration, and this is super powerful. Like some people like you look at this book, you think it's solid. No, it's not. It's vibrating. Look at these headphones right here. Oh, it's still vibrating. Everything is in vibration, right? So nothing rests. Everything moves and everything vibrates, okay? And the way to look at this, the word vibration, is you got to get your vibe right, bro. Get your vibe right. Everything vibrates and has a frequency. Nothing rests. Even frozen water vibrates, okay? So higher frequency vibrations are unseen versus lower are more dense. So if you got anybody here study Joe Dispenza's work, anybody? Joe Dispenza? Yeah, I figured y'all. Joe Dispenza. He's like a legend to me. I love Joe Dispenza. But like this is me being a little judgy. I do not like his voice on his meditations. It sounds like a 5th grade school teacher. I think I love Joe Dispenza, but his voice and feel yourself in space, and I just don't. I love him, but I don't like his meditations. Sorry, a little side note. But one of the things that he talks about is there's lower emotions that are dense, and there's higher emotions that are less dense, and the higher emotions have a higher frequency. So when you shift from like anger, guilt, shame, sadness, lower vibrational emotions, and you shift to a higher state of consciousness, which is deeply related to your emotional state, you can literally change your vibration. You can change your density. I personally believe that you can actually heal cancer and other certain types of we don't know where this diagnosis came from. Fibromyalgia, right? Like go to the doctor, oh, we don't know what's causing it. It's probably stuck emotions, bro. But a lot of Western medicine isn't talking about this. And that's why we're having these conversations. That's why I created this academy. right? Now, thoughts, sounds, rocks, trees, and atomic particles all are measurable vibrations. Every one of your emotions it can be measured. Okay. Eventually, we're gonna have AI to like telling us what our vibrational state is. Now, a vibration is an expression of vibration. Heat, temperature changes the vibrational frequency of water to change to air. Now, if you guys haven't ever studied this, this is like super powerful concept. I thought about doing a whole presentation just on what's called the three gunas. Anybody heard of the three gunas before? Three gunas. I was actually like a little backstory. I was in a taxi cab in Bali, and we got stuck in some gnarly traffic. It was like 2 hours of traffic, but I believe it was the Bhagavad Gita, and I had that with me. Or everybody knows the Upanishads, but there's a part where it talked about the three gunas, and basically the three gunas. There's three states of consciousness and three states of matter. Okay, there's a solid, liquid, and gas. We spoke about this a moment ago. Okay. Now, a solid state, I'm just touching on this, is actually very important. Solid state is called tamas. There's people who are very stuck and very rigid. Anybody know somebody who's rigid in their thought patterns, right? They're like, this is the way that it is. And what happens is it's actually a beautiful way to like see people. They're either frozen, they're liquid, or gas. So when people are frozen in their consciousness, they're basically in a like tamas. Okay. And as people begin to shift, like when you look at like water, when it moves above 33 degrees, right, you move into a liquid state, and that's called Raja, also known as a royal state, okay? And then as you move through that Raja state, you move into a Sattva, and this is where the word Bodhisattva comes from. Anybody ever heard of the word Bodhisattva? Essentially, it's like an enlightened being, and that's more of a gaseous state. So we have a solid, which is tamas, we have a liquid, which is Raja, and we have Sattva, which is a gaseous state. And that to me relates a lot to our breath. Okay. And so, like when we do our breath work a little bit later, that's a great way to understand these concepts. So, there's three different vibrational states, right? Solid, liquid, and gas. And the more you do your inner work, you're going to move into more of that gaseous state. And your vibration literally is a vibe, bro. It's your vibe, which is exactly what determines your quality of life on this earth plane and affects everyone around you like a drop of water. I was saying that 15 years ago when I opened up my gym. I would tell people, I want you to go out, change your diet, change your way of life to such a degree that you become like a drop of water, creating a ripple in the lives of everybody around you. And that's the kind of work that you can do when you actually embody these teachings. Now, energy flows with thought, and this is how we heal through our mind's vibrational frequency. Let me say it again. This is how we heal through our mind's vibrational frequency. An example is like people are stuck in like anger, stuck in guilt, they're stuck in lust. They're all constantly lusting. I need a sandwich right now. I must have sandwiches. Or like just like an example, whatever you're lusting for, right? Try to make this funny for you guys. But you're like when you start to shift into a quantum state of mind, you begin to see everything as energy. Anybody else kind of working at that frequency already? You see everything as energy, but anybody? There we go. Yeah, you start to see everything just as energy. Now, to go a little deeper into this, Tesla talked about this as well. If you wish to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. Okay? Nikola Tesla, pretty smart dude, right? And so he also said if you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have a key to the universe. You can see over here this beautiful little picture here. We have the tree of life, and we have the 3, the 6, and the 9. If you look at that symbol, you actually see the logo for VW there too. They have hidden geometry, hidden sacred geometry there. And was he talking about the phi ratio? That's like for a whole nother presentation for you guys. But even Nikola Tesla understood the importance of energy, frequency, and vibration. Like think about it, if you're spending your whole day thinking about how worthless and crappy you are, guess what? You're going to attract more people and things and energy that reminds you how worthless you are, right? Versus operating from a frequency like, wow, I'm so abundant. I am so grateful. That's a higher frequency, and you'll begin to attract more things that mirror that back to you. You guys feel me? Beautiful. This is like super simple stuff, but we live in a society where we're fed poisonous food, poisonous drugs, like fear porn on TV. If you watch the news, I call the news fear porn because you just watch it. And it's like, oh my God, I have this fear now. It's just like ridiculous, right? So the key thing is understanding that when you start to go within yourself, you can change your frequency on your own. Now, the principle of polarity, all these are freaking gold, but everything is dual. And I actually use the principle of polarity in my book to work with emotions. Whenever you have one emotion, there's always an opposing emotion. So I use this actually in my book, The Principle of Polarity. Now, everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has a pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half truths, and all paradoxes may be reconciled. An extremely powerful concept right there, understanding the balance. Like an example, anytime you think a thought, there's always an opposing thought. It's like whenever there's yin, there's also yang. They're always happening. This is why, like, when I'm working as a coach or doing energy work with people, and people tell me something, I can reframe it because, like, just because you think this way, like, well, if you just said that, there's also the opposite. And the key thing is creating that awareness for people so they can shift their consciousness, shift their awareness, and then shift their polarity. Okay, just like there's a positive and negative, right? And just a quick check-in. Any questions so far for me? Anybody so far? I'm gonna take a sip of tea. And if not, we'll just keep going. We'll have some time at the end too. So let's go a little bit deeper into this and understand this law of polarity. Now, all paradoxes can be reconciled. Polarity is expressed in temperature. This is what's wild. When you really think about this, this is actually happening all the time. Extreme heat actually feels cold. Extreme cold actually feels hot. Okay? The quieter things get, the louder things get. Like there's an example of this, like quiet versus loud. Supposedly there's like this recording studio in like Minnesota, and it's like the quietest room on earth. And you go into the room and it's so quiet, people can't spend more than like 20 minutes in there because you can hear your heart beating because it's so quiet. It literally drives people insane because it's so quiet. So the quieter things get, they actually get louder. So oftentimes when I tell people when their lives are so chaotic, just like coming back to my point earlier, let the muddy water settle, because as you calm yourself down, it creates that clarity. But coming back to this principle, quiet versus loud. The higher you go up, it actually becomes down. Like if you're too yang, eventually it's going to turn yin. The more north you go, eventually it turns into south. The more if you go east, eventually it comes to west, right? The more masculine you become, it actually drops you into the feminine. The more feminine, it actually drops you in the masculine. Like if we look at a linear concept, it's actually could also be seen as a circle, 3D versus quantum. And so we are currently out of balance in our third dimensional reality. We're very stuck in this linear concept of consciousness, which keeps us very dense. But the key thing to recognize is that opposites are the same, just differing in degree or extremes. And that's what we're talking about with what's called this middle way path, the balance between both. So when you understand these principles, like when you actually have applied these 7 principles to your life, you are literally living as that wave. It's one thing for me to teach all this stuff to you. It's another thing to embody this stuff. And that's why we do a meditation at the end. So that's essentially what the Tao is, okay? Is living a balanced yin and yang life. And like one of my favorite stories, the story of the Chinese farmer. Is it good or bad? Maybe, okay? So love and hate are essentially the same, just different degrees of vibrational frequencies, okay? So it's all like when you're in one state, you can always shift it. The key thing is your awareness. In transcending the poles is where we find truth and balance and natural law applied to life. Like literally when you are living these principles, you're like invincible. You cannot be stopped. You feel freaking amazing. Things just kind of flow through you, okay? The key is to examine our own polarity. That's what sets us free, because awareness of polarity allows us to observe our own shadow and how we could be projecting, creating space for a massive shift in our consciousness. That's the first and last key points for shadow work. I tell people the first step is awareness. The last step is awareness, but it's a higher state of awareness because you're more conscious of how you're projecting, how others are projecting onto you, and things don't affect you the same way. And we'll get into cause and effect here in a moment. So after polarity is the principle of rhythm. Everything flows in and out. Everything has tides. All things rise, all things fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. Now, I'm going to share with you guys an advanced teaching right here, golden wisdom. When you begin to truly understand these principles and you understand the principle of rhythm, let's say you're in a place where you start to be aware of how this pendulum swings, okay? You could be in a state where you understand how this pendulum swings. You can actually hold the pendulum to one side and knowing when to do this in your life and release at the right time, and boom, the pendulum swings a lot more force in the opposite direction. Let's say, like for me, like years ago, I was in a very dark space where I like lost my gym, lost my film studio, and I was aware of this principle. And what I did, instead of trying to fight it, I surrendered more deeply into my sadness, surrendered more deeply into my depression, and I surrendered more deeply into that dark space because I was aware of the pendulum swing. And the deeper I went into the darkness, I wasn't like, I have to fight the dark, I have to fight my depression. Like I was like, fuck, I'm depressed. Just fucking go with it. And the more I sat with that, I let that pendulum go into one direction and boom, it shifted in the complete opposite direction and my entire life shifted. So that's a gold nugget, advanced teaching. When you learn how these principles work, you can understand how this pendulum is always swinging in your life, okay? So let's go a little bit deeper. Rhythm, feel it in the heart, boy. Feel it in the heart, feel the rhythm. So the nature of reality has a rhythmic cycle, just like your heart. Your heart's always beating, right? There's always a rhythm affecting your life. Now, let me start over again. So the nature of reality has a rhythmic cycle and or a logarithm, a process that flows. And if you flow with it, rather than resist it, you will manifest your dreams with ease. I cannot stress that enough. Some of you guys are attempting to accomplish goals, but on some level, you're getting in your own way because you're not in the state of flow. And that's where a lot of what we're teaching here in the Academy is so powerful, this Taoist alchemy. The infinite is experiencing itself through each one of us. If we resist, we will continue to repeat cycles until we learn the lesson. It's like, oh my God, I get to experience my abandonment wound again. Yay, you're out dating. And you're like, you keep attracting the same experience over and over. And it's driving you nuts until you begin to operate from this flow state. What you resist will persist. Okay, so like, what is the universe? What are you at a soul level attempting to teach yourself? One of my favorite books that we'll be teaching in February, we do it every February, is Chinese face reading. And in this one book, it's a phenomenal book. I have it here somewhere. I know I'm always selling you guys books, but Lillian Bridges, it's right here. Well, Lillian Bridges talks about how sometimes your soul will put you through a traumatizing experience to wake your ass up. Sorry for the language, but that your soul, like, oh, you're not going to learn a lesson? All right, bro. So your soul will put you through some severely traumatizing stuff to awaken you to who you're meant to be. So sometimes what we call something, oh my God, that was so bad. It was just part of something that you needed to go through to awaken your potential. So I often remind people of that when they're going through stuff. And sometimes it's just the universe is speaking to you. And Mary's like, yes, that is right. All right, let's keep going here. This is where our unconscious emotions, our shadow, may be crying out for acknowledgement or acceptance. Awareness of our emotional rhythms sets us free. And that comes back to some of the stuff that I was talking about with Dr. Joe Dispenza, because he mentions, like, one of my favorite pictures, I often have it in some of my slides, there's lower vibrational emotions and there's higher vibrational emotions. And so you can change this rhythm in your life. You can literally change this rhythm. So I'll say it again. This is where our unconscious emotions or shadow may be crying out for you to acknowledge your suppressed guilt, acknowledge your suppressed shame. And awareness of our emotional rhythms truly sets us free. And that's why I love teaching this, because you go to a doctor, you go to a therapist, like they may not be having this conversation with you, right? So it's really about you doing your own inner work. Because like ultimately, you go to a coach, doctor, therapist, whoever it is, but it's about your frequency and you facing your own stuff and integrating what's going on. Now, our addictions to suffering may simply be acknowledging the rhythms present in our lives or emotions. And here's the key point, guys. You either use your emotions or they will use you from the unconscious. So you have to be aware of your rhythms if you are to truly heal. And the rhythms of life include the rise and fall of nations, the ocean's tide, life and death, being rich or poor. You could be poor now, but use that rhythm to become filthy rich. You let go and be free. Like an example, some people are so rigid in their thinking. They're so like hyper masculine or hyper yang, right? They have these blinders on and they're living in a myopic reality. And we want to peel those blinders. Like, oh my God, there's so much more that I wasn't seeing because I was so identified with lower vibrational emotions. Okay. I want to make a point too. There's nothing wrong with feeling anger, guilt, shame, sadness. But if you're constantly in that state, boy, life's going to be pretty difficult. Let's keep going. This is honestly my favorite principle, is cause and effect. You can see here, like literally, like you hit a domino and that domino comes all the way down and smacks you in the back of the head if you're not aware of how cause and effect work. Now, let me say this. If you are aware of how cause and effect work, you can hit the domino, it'll go around, but because you understand these principles, as that domino goes around, it's going to hit you, you just step out the way because you understand how these principles work. Now, every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law, and chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes this law. Everything is cause and effect. When we say this, a lot of the world right now is stuck in the effects. They don't know how to be the cause. They're over identified with the identity of the effects based upon their past, where you can learn how to become the cause that is creating the effects. Let's go a little deeper into that. So nothing escapes the law. And for those who don't know, where does the word law come from? Law actually means land, air, and water. Very powerful, right, Jennifer? And this is my favorite principle. I mean, mentalism is like it's the foundation, but like when you really understand how your mind works, like this is why people are stuck in victim mode. Like I'm still stuck in the victim. It's like no, you're stuck in the effects of your past choices, right? And I'm like harsh, but like being really honest, you guys. That's why I love teaching this stuff. Now, most of humanity appears to be stuck in the 3D effects of the past. For those of you who have been working with me for a while and understand, I always talk about how most of the world is in a linear consciousness. It's just the past, the future, the past, the future. Joe Dispenza talks about this too. I actually realized this before I found Dr. Joe Dispenza. So what we're talking about is people are stuck in a Newtonian, Cartesian, linear consciousness. It's very masculine consciousness. There's nothing wrong with the masculine, but we're clearly over masculine in society today. We're so rigid and controlling, and it's driving us completely insane. So this is what's keeping us stuck in the 3D effects of the past, looking at symptomatic effects rather than the causes and why we have these symptoms. Okay, the why is essentially the logic of why we have these symptoms. Like a healthy masculine is really getting into the logos or the why these symptoms are occurring. If we don't know why, we cannot change the effects. This keeps us in a victim mind state. We cannot change the past, but we can be the cause that creates a new future. If you're taking notes, please write that down. You can be the cause. Another thing here too is like, this is what I love about shadow work in the Hermetic principles is that literally it's like time traveling. You can change your energy now and it'll change your past. You can change your energy now and it will change your past because it's like reframing. We talk about NLP in this group too. You can literally reframe past experiences. Now, this is one of my favorite analogies, like honestly, like one of my favorite analogies. There's no power to change in the effects. Like when you go to a doctor and they give you a drug, they're dealing with the effects. Oftentimes, not all the time, they're not getting to the root cause. Like an example, like let's say this is like for me, years ago, I was going to like doctors, therapists, chiropractors. I had these back problems and no doctor or therapist or chiropractor or osteopath said anything about emotions to me. I spent $30,000 on doctors, chiropractors, and they were great people. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? I was like on anti-inflammatory drugs too, but no one told me that I had stuck emotions. I finally found this shamanic healer. Like, oh, well, you have all these stuck emotions. I was like, what? None of these other doctors told me I had stuck emotions, and that completely changed everything because I was living in the effects. My body was dense, and things didn't shift until I moved into this different mind state. Now, coming back to my love for this analogy, there's no power to change. Okay, no power to change occurs in effects. This is my favorite analogy. You are essentially rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. All power comes in creating a new cause. But what do I mean by you rearrange the deck chairs in the Titanic? Let's say you're going, like you have some kind of health condition and like you take a drug. And I'm not trying to knock all drugs, okay? But it's like the Titanic has been hit by an iceberg. And so you go out and you rearrange the deck chairs, the boat's sinking, you go, hey guys, the deck chairs look great. We're sinking. You've done nothing. You haven't done anything. The ship is sinking and you rearrange the deck chairs. Oh my God, it looks really nice on the deck of the Titanic while you're slowly sinking. It's like, what? Like, this is essentially America right now. We're sinking and we keep rearranging the deck chairs. We're like, hey, things look great. Like, no, it's bullshit. Right? So I'm trying to make this funny because it's not funny, but that's essentially what's happening. The key thing is to recognize the power we have when we become the cause rather than living the effects. And this comes down to empowerment. Okay, that's essentially what we're working at, is empowering you guys. Jennifer says the reframe gives it a different meaning after we decide what we want things to mean. Yes, absolutely, 100%. And the key thing is to understand that you can be the cause rather than the effect in your own life. Okay, this is how we shift our lives and get out of victim mentality. We have to observe the effects, don't identify with the effects. I always say all change happens at the identity level of our consciousness. So when we observe the effects of the past, we create new causes. Okay, we have to look, this is the effects, what caused this, and now you can create new causes in your future. So you always have this power when you understand these principles, but more importantly, in applying them to your own life. Basically, you're going to play the game of life rather than being subjected to the effects. You are not at the mercy of the world unless you choose to be stuck in the effects of your past. And as I mentioned, this is all about empowering you guys. So some of you may be like listening to this, like, oh, damn, like I'm still living the effects of that past experience. This relates a lot to shadow work because, like I said, it's like you're who you are right now is the shadow of your past. And once you start to recognize that and take responsibility, the ability to respond, you can start to create the future that you are worthy of. Anybody else feel me on that? Like that's some good shit, right? Create the future. I always say, I was talking to another coach earlier. It's like, I could give a shit what you want. I don't care what you want. What do you deserve? Don't ever say, I want this. You know what I mean? What do you deserve? Because then you now access that magnetic frequency. You're now attracting that into your life because you are the cause creating the effects. When you say the word want, your subconscious mind says, I'm pushing that away. I want to be a millionaire. So it says, oh, that's not happening. I deserve to be a millionaire. Now the money's coming to you. And money is just energy, right? Mono eye, one eye. All right. We having fun, guys? We enjoying this? Are you entertained? Are you not entertained? Am I entertaining you enough? That's what I'm here for, to entertain you. That was for you, Nicholas. Hope you love it. All right. So the principle of gender. Now we're going to talk about sex, not really, but we're talking about what sex actually means. It has nothing to do with sex and everything to do with your essence. Everything to do with your essence. Like when we do our central channel breathing a little bit, whether you're male or female, it's about bringing your energy into the space just below the belly button. That's where your power center is, okay? That's your jing, okay? Even as a male, it's about working with that powerful feminine energy deep within the belly. And you actually, this is like a little side tangent, you're basically bringing the masculine and feminine together within you, okay? When you access this divine marriage, the alchemical marriage, which we're going to be talking more about in the next few weeks in the academy. So gender isn't everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principle. Gender manifests on all planes. And just to give you guys an example, anybody here like watch the movie The Matrix? The Matrix, remember the ones and zeros? The one is the masculine, the zero is the feminine. Everything's ones and zeros. Even look at the alphabet. A is a masculine letter. B is a feminine letter because it's more curvy. And the more masculine letters and numbers are more straight. The more feminine ones are more curvy. So literally our entire reality is this masculine and feminine balance, okay? And as you start to see through this, it comes back to the point I made earlier. When you're really on the path, you guys, you see everything as energy. Remember, time doesn't exist because time backwards is emit. Everything is energy. Your ego identifies with a linear consciousness, but as you shift out of that linear consciousness into a quantum mindset, you begin to access this infinite principle of possibility because you're transcending duality. Did you guys write that down? Because that was a fucking gold nugget. Hello. Sometimes I'm like I'm like, oh, that's good. I got to just say that. You know, that's why I love doing these classes. So let's get into the principle of gender. The word gender comes from the word generare, which means to generate, to create. So when you really, like an example, it's like your left and right hemispheres, masculine and feminine. When they're working together, you are a logically emotional being. You are a logically emotional being. Being to like, it says it right there. Gender in Latin is generare, meaning to create. It's a balanced mind. The mind is also known as just a great book. I believe it's called The Bicameral Mind. Okay, and camera means chamber. So there's this two-chamber mind. And when you begin to balance the left and right hemispheres and they work together, you were like a fucking wizard. Okay, like straight up, like you were manifesting abundance on all levels. Okay, and the key thing is gender manifests on all planes. Masculine is the giver, feminine is the receiver. Let me say that again, ladies and gentlemen, especially some of you ladies. Masculine is the giver and the feminine is the receiver. I'm going to straight up say this. So like years ago, I coached a lot of women and when I had my own gym, they called me the mommy whisperer. And I can't tell you how many women I have to say, you are in your masculine. You are giving, you're giving, you're giving, you're giving, you're giving, you're burning out. Masculine energy is fire. You're giving. These mothers are just taking care of everybody. Their bodies are falling apart and I'm helping them to stay healthy. And I had to explain to them, this has nothing to do with what you think this stuff is, but the feminine is the receiver. How often are you receiving? How often are you receiving? This happens to so many women and men too, you know, but if women, it's like you literally are a woman, be in that receptive state. So creative expression is enhanced when we are balanced, when you're in that state of giving, but you're also receiving. Most of our society is in that fire masculine energy. Notice how some people have inflammation, right? Like one of the, like the gut problems, right? Because it all comes down to these very powerful principles. Too much fire energy. The whole world, there's nothing wrong with the masculine, but we're so much in the masculine, it's literally killing us. So we have to come back to Mother Earth. That's why I love, like my retreat. It's called the Healing Embodiment Retreat. It's her. It's a reconnection to the Tao. It's reconnecting with Mother Earth. And then, like another side concept, everyone's like worshiping God. And there's nothing wrong with worshiping God. God's up there, but Mother Earth's down here, y'all. We gotta have both. We gotta reconnect with the Earth. We're so disconnected. I love going off on my tangents. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying it. Now, being balanced in gender means awareness of duality. If you're taking notes, write that down because you can transcend duality. Well, I mentioned earlier that great book, Quantum Psychology. One of the most powerful things I've ever learned from that book on quantum psychology is that he talks about, it's here somewhere, most of my crazy books. So in quantum psychology, this guy, Stefan Walensky, this guy's a freaking genius. And he says that to transcend duality, you're basically ending the trance. I like to make the joke. It's like the whole world, we're at this nightclub and the music's really crappy. And we're all dancing. And we're like, why are we dancing to this song? It sucks. Like, we're just like, it's like a horrible song. And we're all like, oh my God, we're all drunk. We're all high. We're all have jobs that pay us barely anything. Oh, the government sucks. Like, we're all like, it's just like, why are we dancing to this? Like, why are we? It's like, so we want to end the trance. We're in this weird trance. Like, anybody ever been to a club and it's like shitty music? Like, that's basically where humanity's at a shitty nightclub. That's basically where we're at. So we want to end the trance and move into a new consciousness, but we have to be aware of duality. And that comes down to understanding these principles, because that's how we shift from this 3D into the quantum field. Those that don't know what quantum is, I use that word, and I remember I used it for years. I didn't really understand it. The word quantum actually comes from the word quanta, which means energy packets, which relates to everything I've been teaching you, because every thought you have is an energy packet. And what you choose to fill that energy packet with literally shifts the entire field. No pressure. You're changing the whole world with every thought. No pressure. Maybe a little pressure. Okay, a little pressure for you, Emma. I see you. Just messing around. So that's how we transcend duality, by actually applying these principles. And essentially, an electrical circuit and a magnet has both positive and negative charges, right? Positive and negative charges. And just to touch on that further, masculine energy is electric, feminine energy is magnetic. So when you're like, there's nothing wrong with this masculine. I'm not harping on the masculine. There's nothing wrong with the masculine. We're just too much in our masculine. And when you start to embody this divine feminine energy, even I work on this myself with grounding myself, doing the central channel breathing, which we're going to do in a few minutes. You begin to access the divine feminine magnetic energy. You begin to effortlessly attract, you begin to effortlessly manifest, because you've harmonized these energies. Your body is connected to this electromagnetic energy field through your nervous system. That's why regulating your nervous system is fucking gold. Sorry to cuss, but just it's that important. It's absolute gold. That's like the essence of alchemy, having a regulated nervous system, because you're attuned to the field. Like whenever I don't want to meditate, I'm like, oh, I gotta connect with the quantum field. So boom. Lately I've been doing this the last week. I've been perfect. I sit for 30 minutes in meditation and I just don't move. Just see if I can not move for 30 minutes. You guys know how hard that is? Just not move and just sit and just hold in one position. And I just do like my central channel breathing and I just hold that position. But my energy field, like by the end of 30 minutes, I'm so calm. And when I go through the day and mother truckers try to test me, it doesn't faze me that much. Because mother truckers always try to test you. You guys know what I'm talking. Mother truckers are always going to test you. It just happens. All right. So the calmer you are, the easier it all gets. Now, there will always be a swing between the masculine and feminine polarities. Remember how all these principles are actually all connected. So when you have more awareness, I know it's just a quick presentation I'm sharing with you guys, but I highly recommend actually reading this book and going into it, because it like goes very deep. That's part of my goal for this group, is to like touch on this wisdom, give you the gold nuggets, and so you can begin to apply it to your life. Because learning this stuff is great. Even my mentor, Darren, who I'm co-hosting the retreat with, is like, Ody, you're really good at teaching. Nothing you teach matters if they don't embody it. You got to embody it, right, guys? So that's the key thing here. So this also relates, we're almost done here, you guys. We're going to start meditating soon. This also relates to shadow work, because we could have male and female aspects of ourselves that we may be suppressing or repressing due to trauma from our past. Right? Where are you not receiving? Where are you not giving? Where were you wounded? And how are your wounds affecting you receiving? Some of you on this call are people pleasers. Or maybe you were a people pleaser. You're giving, you're giving, you're giving, you're giving, you're giving, you're giving. I'm an empath. I'm giving. I'm taking care of everybody. I can feel everyone's pain, so I'm going to help them heal. And then you're depleted and you're not receiving, right? So begin to examine that. Very powerful point. Master the swinging polarities of gender is the achievement of self-mastery. When you really understand, like when I'm talking, like I'm talking, so I'm a lot of my mask I'm giving to you guys today, right? But the key thing is understand, like after I got this call, I'm gonna go meditate. I'm actually gonna go to the gym. That's me more in my receptive mode, right? But let's finish things off here. So I found this slide on the internet, this picture. It's just really cool. It kind of breaks this all down. So the center of all this is mentalism. Then we have polarity and gender, very connected. Correspondence and cause and effect, very connected. And you'll see this last point, vibration and rhythm are very connected. They're all intertwined. They all revolve around that first principle, the law of mentalism. Okay, yeah, Oscar, I'm talking about you. Oscar, you're laughing. So the key thing here is understanding how you harmonize all these principles together. Wow, almost like perfect timing. It's almost 7. Love it. So the final notes. True Hermetic transmutation is a mental art. One of the things, like just to touch on, I know I keep talking about that quantum psychology book, is it says that quantum psychology is not a spectator sport. And actually applying these tools to your life, it's not you can't sit in the sideline, guys. You can't just like watch my presentation. Like now that I've taught you this, you've been handed bars of gold. Will you apply it to your life? And I got one more slide after this that will go deeper to that. So the key to unlocking the secret is not in the words, but in the symbols. The key to unlocking the secrets is not in anything that I said to you guys. Hopefully I made this very entertaining for you guys. But for you, it's about unlocking the potential through the symbols, right? It's like you actually embodying this balance between these principles, operating from that wave. The secret lies in the wave, that first quote. The goal of these principles is divine indifference in balance, the Taoist sage, okay? And this last part right here, I actually created this myself. I put all the words together. Instead of being the victim, which is the effect, you can become the cause by shifting your vibrational frequency, polarizing your emotional state, flowing with the rhythms of life, stepping into your masculine yang energy and slowing down into your feminine yin energy, utilizing your mental abilities in correspondence with these principles to create the reality you deserve. This is natural law applied to your life. And I actually made that right there. I put all the words together from this presentation, all the principles in one. Just sit on that for a second. That's really powerful stuff because everything I'm teaching you guys is about empowering you. I'm gonna sip of my drink. And we'll finish up with this one final quote. Oh, we'll go over questions in a moment. This one final quote here. This actually comes from the book. That's like I said, I've given you guys all this wisdom. I've given you bars of gold. All right. So the possession of knowledge, unless accompanied by a manifestation and expression in action, is like the hoarding of precious metals, a vain and foolish thing. Knowledge, like wealth, is intended for use. The law of use is universal, and he who violates it suffers by reason of his own conflict with natural forces. So what that means is everything I've shared with you today, begin to embody it, begin to apply it, and use it to set yourself free. That is the real power of this wisdom. Perfect timing, right at 7 o'clock here. Excuse me. So thank you all. For my throat. Thank you all for joining the call. If you want to learn more about the Academy, go to alchemyhealingacademy.com. We have weekly meditations. We have our Inner Circle program. We meet every single week. You can check out my social media. Next month, we're going to be diving into our topic for the month is trauma and memory. I'll be teaching this book in the Academy. And this, I just got this one earlier this year. It is so freaking good. Heal Your Nervous System. So I'll be teaching these 2 books all next month in the Academy. So if you're not involved with the Academy, tune in. Every Thursday we have a teaching. The 3rd Thursday we do a free teaching. So if you want to just tune in and get a bunch of free shit, just come to all the free calls on the 3rd Thursday. But if you need any additional support, I also have my book. I do one-on-one coaching. I also do quantum healing work. Some of you guys have worked with me before. But put it in your schedule. Next November 20th, it's going down. So we'll finish up here with any Q&A, any questions or thoughts or comments that you'd like to share. Did you have fun? Were you entertained?
I, for one, was entertained.
Good. I live for that, Nicholas.
Great job, Ody.
Thank you. I felt like that was a good one today. I
Yeah, it
love
was.
that. Like, I always say this in these calls. Like, if we imagine if the whole world knew this stuff and applied it, that's my motivation. That's why I get so excited when I teach this because, like, each call we get a few more people on, start empowering more people. There's one thing, like I said, to listen to this presentation. It's another thing to apply it. And the more people we get to actually embody these teachings, it literally changes the entire world. Any
Yeah,
other?
the
Go
yeah, the
ahead.
beginning of it with the mentalism, it's so fundamentally important because it all starts with thought. So thankfully, from being in this group for so long, it's really helped me with reframing things consistently. Like when I say something or that sucked or that was bad or whatever, I'm like, no, I immediately triggers me to rework that, reword it, and look at it a different way. It helps out a lot in terms of
Yeah.
just past stuff, whatever else. So yeah,
Well, Nicholas, why don't you just share quickly with the group how the addictions you overcome being in this group?
yeah, yeah. So for me, I was addicted to like porn, video games, weed, just a lot of stuff, and just a lot of just coping mechanisms that were not very helpful to me or my spirit. And just for making mistakes, but also being part of this group with the community and just having support from Odysseus, it's really helped me out. And I just wanted to be better and just be more aligned with my my true purpose, which is just to make genuine connections, help people out, just do the best I possibly can. And it's been really good, just setting proper boundaries, not associating with people that aren't a good fit, and just being aware of what I'm doing on a day to day basis because it all just kind of comes back around. So
Thank you, Nicholas.
and oh yeah, wait, I checked my phone. I think if I last time I checked, it was like 726 days since I did any sort of porn or even like touch myself or anything like that. It's just a lot of things to
Round
be
of
proud
applause.
for.
Round of applause to you, Nicholas. We need more men doing the work, buddy. Really appreciate you, boss.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, man, for doing the work. Anybody else want to share before we transition into a meditation? Any other final thoughts or comments? Did you enjoy the presentation? You can put something in the chat box too if you want. And I'll just give you guys a minute. If you feel called, say, Odie, I hated it.
I'll share.
Go for it.
I love the copious amount of knowledge that you have, and like for me, I've always really felt called to like ancient Egypt, and like for me, just like understanding some of these principles, like I think are super powerful. Um, and yeah, it just really resonated with me, and you were able to, you know, I guess put some things in perspective.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm sick, so I sound terrible, but but yes,
Thank
thank you.
you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That's the thing. It's like I realized years ago reading this stuff that like I would read all these books and then I'd like forget the information. And so then I started creating the presentation, then I started teaching it. I'm like I've taught this presentation like at least 5 times and like it just gets deeper in my subconscious. And like we repeat this presentation once per year because you're not going to memorize this just listening to it once. You really got to immerse yourself in this content.
That's what Jim Quick says. He talks about that you actually learn twice when you learn and then you teach. And it's a way to, ensure that you truly know the knowledge.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's like I said, it's one thing to learn this, it's another thing to embody it, to actually like
Mhm.
integrate it. And so that's why on these Thursdays we do a teaching every week, and then we're going to do a meditation here so we can actually experience this within our bodies. Thank you, Jennifer. Much love.
Thank you.
Hope you
Thank
feel better
you.
soon. Any other final
Thank you.
comments? All right. Well, let's transition and do some meditation work.